The Hoop Heads Podcast is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
Hey Hoopheads! Wanted to take a minute to shout out our partners and friends at Dr. Dish Basketball. Their Dr. Dish shooting machines are undoubtedly the most advanced and user-friendly machines on the market, and they truly accelerate skill development faster than ever. Learn more at drdishbasketball.com and follow their incredible content at Dr. Dish B-Ball on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Mention the Hoopheads Podcast and save an extra $300 on the Dr. Dish Rebel, All-Star, and CT models. Also, make sure to check out the new Dr. Dish Home Machine. Visit drdishbasketball.com for details. That's a great deal, Hoopheads. Get your Dr. Dish shooting machine today.
Hi, this is Dan Evans, head men's basketball coach at the University of North Georgia, and you're listening to the Hoopheads Podcast.
Prepare like the pros with the all-new Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Fast Draw has been the #1 play diagramming software for coaches for years. You'll quickly see why Fast Model Sports has the most compelling and intuitive basketball software out there. For a limited time, Fast Model is offering new subscribers 10% off Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Just use the code SAVE10 at checkout to grab your discount, and you'll be on your way to more efficient game prep and improved communication with your team. Fast Model also has new coaching content every week on its blog, plus play and drill diagrams on its play bank. Check out the links in the show notes for more. Fast Model Sports is the best in basketball.
Coaches, do you have a point guard or leader you're going to be counting on next season to run the show for you? Don't leave next season to chance. Thousands of coaches send their players to a point guard college camp each summer to learn to think the game, lead a team, and run the show. Your players will be smarter, better leaders, and better equipped to foster a championship culture next season in practice and in your locker room. I've seen firsthand how PGC camps have had a huge impact on players and coaches that I know, both on and off the court. You can go to pgcbasketball.com to find a 5-day, 4-night camp near you. That's pgcbasketball.com.
What that breath work does is that it wakes me up. That is the point. I want to alert my CNS, my central nervous system. So I want to get everything activated. I want to be ready for my day. And usually when I do it, man, I feel amazing.
Jason Fry has served with Pure Sweat Basketball since 2013 and is currently the director of Pure Sweat Basketball Skills Coaches. He is the creator of the Healthy Leader program that can help transform you into the leader you believe you can become. Jason previously coached as an assistant at Drury University, Missouri Baptist University, and Whitfield School. He joined Pure Sweat as the first employee to work alongside Drew Hanlen, helping build the company to where it is today. Jason is the author of the book The Coach's Season, which would be a tremendous addition to any coach's library. If you're looking to improve your coaching, please consider joining the Hoopheads Mentorship Program. We believe that having a mentor is the best way to maximize your potential and become a transformational coach. By matching you up with one of our experienced mentors, you'll develop a one-on-one relationship that will help your coaching, your team, your program, and your mindset. The Hoopheads Mentorship Program delivers mentoring services to basketball coaches at all levels through our team of experienced head coaches. Find out more at hoopheadspod.com or shoot me an email directly, mike@hoopheadspod.com. Our roster of shows is growing, so don't forget to check out all our other podcasts on the Hoopheads Pod Network, including Thrive with Trevor Huffman, Beyond the Ball, the CoachMaze.com podcast, Players Court, Bleachers and Boards, The Green Light, Courtside Culture, and our team-focused NBA pods, Cavalier Central, Nuck If You Buck, 305 Culture, Daily Thunder, Motor City Hoops, X's and O's NBA Breakdown, Spanning the Spurs, LA Hoops, The Wizards Hoops Analyst, Lakers Fast Break, and At the Buzzer. We're looking for more NBA podcasters interested in hosting their own show centered on a particular team. Email us info@hoopheadspod.com if you're interested in learning more and bringing your talent to our network. Make sure you take some notes as you enjoy this episode of the Hoopheads podcast with Coach Jason Fry from Pure Sweat Basketball and Healthy Leader. Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here with my co-host Jason Sunkel this evening, and we are pleased to welcome back to the Hoopheads podcast for his second appearance, Jason Fry from Pure Sweat Basketball, now the leader of Healthy Leaders. Jason, welcome back to the Hoopheads pod.
Man, I feel such a blessing. I mean, how many double people have you had so far?
We've had a few, but it's probably, I would say, if I had to guess, I'm saying we're probably under. Jason, what do you think? 25?
Oh, we're not that. I mean, I don't think we're even close to that. I think we're close to like 10 to 15, Mike.
All right.
We've had a few people on like 4 or 5 times, but I don't think we've had that many.
All right. During the podcast, our crack research staff is going to come up with the answer. So
I've got a job now. Okay, I got it.
We'll get back to you with where the rankings are and how many people we've had on twice. But at any rate, we are thrilled to have you back on to be able to talk about some of the great things that you've been able to do and are currently in the process of doing in the coaching realm, in the leadership space, and it starts with Healthy Leader. So I guess we'll kick this off by saying, go ahead and share with people what Healthy Leader is, what your vision for it was and is, and then where the idea came from, and then we'll dive into it a little deeper.
Oh, man. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Man, it is such a pleasure to be on here. Healthy Leader, where to start. That's going to be something super simple for me, at least. It's wanting to be a better father. That's where the Healthy Leader started. I wanted to be a better dad. I've got 2 kids. I got a 14 and a 5-year-old. And so it's just one of those things that I was like, I just want to be able to respond better. And then I was researching and reading a ton. I went through 52 books last year. And so I was constantly trying to dig in, and I was just finding out all this research as to what I might be able to try. So I tested this out on me. And I found that I was just a better decision maker. I was calmer. I could handle myself with my kid being a teenager and asking questions that are a little absurd. And so I'm sitting there just getting to practice. And then I started tying in all these other pieces of it. And it just flowed really, really well. So in the grand scheme of things, it was just I wanted to be a better dad. And I feel like I'm in the process of doing that. And so I'm really thrilled to be able to offer this to everybody else to hopefully either be a better father, be a better spouse, be a better leader, be a better decision maker, and live a longer, happier, healthier life with reduced stress and more joy.
So how do you go from that initial idea of, hey, I've got some things that I'm working on in my personal life that are having an impact on what I'm doing, and I have this thought, this idea that maybe there's something here that I can put together to be able to share what I've learned with others. How does it go from that initial idea to putting together an actual curriculum program, something that you can take out to the public and use with other people? How long is that process and what does it look like?
Oh man, you know what? Like, it was one of the days I was doing my breath work and I was like, goodness gracious, I love this. I'm enjoying this. And then I'm looking around and I mean, it's, 4:45 in the morning and I'm like, I think other people would enjoy this. Maybe not the 4:45, but other people could enjoy this. And so I just immediately went to, okay, what I do be replicated? Well, the answer is absolutely. Okay, well then maybe how could I do this to provide a little bit of me plus a little bit of some things that like they've seen or they've been a part of, but maybe not all tied together. So I had a buddy of mine, he's a wealth manager with Undivided Wealth, and he kind of helped put this process or put this idea of, hey, how about testing it this way, or what would it look like from a 30-day standpoint? So I was like, oh, well, that's super simple. Here it is. And so I made my 30 days. And then I was like, well, I should test this on some other people. So then we went through the Healthy Leader with our first group, and we actually went through all 12 weeks with that group. And so I legitimately had, 90 days already ready that I could flush out to these guys and to these excellent leaders. And when I say guys, I mean both girls and boys. I'm not men and women. But I knew that this could be something that would be special and work for them. And so we tested it, and it went really, really well. So then we went with another group, and we went with the original Healthy Leader group of 36 people. And then we tested them, and they really enjoyed it. So then one of the guys, which is Brandon Rosenthal, I think you guys have had Brandon on before, and Rising Coaches. Brandon is phenomenal. And he's like, Jay, our coaches need this. So what would you think about doing it with with Rising Coaches? And I said, dude, I'm in. I'm all in. Like, trust me, let's go for this. And so then we transferred it over to the Healthy Coach, and it went really, really well there too. And we're looking at starting a second group with them as well. So, it just constantly transforms. And, when somebody gives you an idea and you can run with it, you go with it. And then, it was just one of those things of doing it every single day. And I just made sure that I finished my 100-day plans out. And I think that's part of the battle that most people don't end up doing, is that they don't build it all the way out.
I think that's always, whenever you talk about being able to participate in a program like this and invest in yourself, it's probably one of the things that I would say people in general are the worst at, because we all just get caught up in the day-to-day of these tasks that we have to do. And sometimes we forget about the bigger picture of what we're trying to do in our life, what we're trying to be in our life. And we get so caught up in the minutia that we forget to invest in ourselves. So let's talk about the details of what actually makes up the program. And I'm looking at the website right now in front of me, and I see that it's broken down into 4 daily actions that are required. So let's go through each one at a time and let you explain, first of all, what it is, and then why it's so important that was a part of the Healthy Leader program. So let's start with breath work, which you already mentioned, and meditation. Tell me where you first discovered that, and then why you think it's such an important part of what you're doing.
Oh, man. To be honest, it all stems from breath work. Like our body's ability to perform at the highest level possible stems from your ability to breathe in and breathe out. Okay, so like a lot of us, even the inside of our bodies aren't working efficiently and effectively because there are certain parts inside that are mushed over one way, and the other organs kind of moved over, and breath work actually helps improve everything going back to where it should be inside. So, and that all that does is open up that diaphragm even more, so we can give and receive oxygen even better. Which, if we have that better oxygen intake and outtake, obviously your ability to explode, your movements are better from an athletic standpoint. Your ability to breathe decreases the stress and decreases the cortisol levels throughout the daytime, so that you can actually perform at the level that you want to, right? And then you're looking at, it also just lowers the anxiety, the depression. We do this breath work so that it hits these targets. And I mean, we're looking at, like, May is now Mental Health Month, and so with this lowering those issues of depression and anxiety and stress, it's just such a paramount thing to really, really focus on.
All right, so give us an idea of, when you say breath work, and somebody who's out there listening that's not familiar with that term, give us an idea of what that actually entails, so that somebody who's out there saying, oh, okay, breath work. All right, what does that actually mean?
Sure. All right, so let's set up the format to begin with and go, okay, for right now, let's say you're a beginner, and we're going to start just like everybody else does. Let's say we're all beginners in life. So we're looking at breath work for 7 minutes. All right, Mike. We are looking at going, okay, so maybe the first week might just to be a little bit more aware of our breathing. And so, like, the breathing in through the nose, like the nasal breathing is so much more important than our mouth breathing. Research study after research study, we can even put this in the show notes if need be, but research study shows how much better and how much better of the intake of oxygen and the release of the carbon dioxide because of the breath work through the nose. So we want to try as much as we can to just be more aware of breathing in and out through the nose. Sleep, that also helps improve your sleeping patterns. So what we would do maybe the first week could be just that we focus on breathing more for that 7 minutes of just nasal breathing. Breathing in for like a 3 count, it doesn't matter. We won't even focus on that till the following week, where we actually work on our the inhale breath being an X number of time, the hold being X number of time, and then the exhale being the X number of time. So we're just focused on just the set breathing in through the nose for 7 minutes, because that's going to be our time frame that we do for the entire time frame that we are a healthy leader, is that breath work for that long. And then we go through all the 12 weeks, we actually take everybody through a different style of breath work each week. We actually have breath work experts, meditation experts, to come in throughout the Healthy Leader to provide a series or a video and some different methods and solutions for them to breathe better. So it's not just me sharing my research, but it's professionals who are some of the top in the country teaching us how to breathe a little bit better.
Does the breath work and meditation go together during the same time period, or are those two separate blocks of time in your mind?
Mike, great question. They're one or the other. You can choose. They are very, very two different things. So I don't want to confuse anybody. Like, if you're focused on, like, meditation is really difficult. If you're focused on the flame, it's really difficult to let that mind wander. And a lot of people, when they begin doing this, they go, oh, well, crap. They throw their hands up in the air because they can't think of the flame anymore. So they're like, oh, well, I can't meditate. No, it's just really, really difficult. So the breath work actually gets you just kind of prepared a little bit better for meditation. And then we also offer a different type of meditation. Like, we take them through a different app that they can use to go through it, and then to decide, hey, I really liked this one, or I really like that one. So we want to kind of prepare them a little bit more for the meditation because of how difficult it is. But it's not to say that you can't do meditation to begin with.
What do you personally get out of the meditation piece of it? What do you find that it helps you with in your life? When you're meditating, when you're in that groove of doing it on a daily basis, what does it do for your mind, your body, your health? Just what's the benefits?
Oh, man, there's a bunch of them for me. I'll focus on 3. The first one is a reminder of peace for me. So like throughout the day, if I'm in a point where I'm stressed, or, maybe my kid just asked the wrong question at the wrong time, or just, whatever it is, and my stress levels are high, I just go back to whatever that breath work I worked on. So it's just a great trigger that when I do experience the stress or anxiety, then I'm immediately just kind of triggering a couple of those breaths, whichever one it was that day. The second piece for me, number one, is just that it becomes routine. And then getting that breath work really helps me prepare mentally for how I want to attack my day. It's a great thing. Like, if you can get through breath work, then that means that you can be a lot better at handling distractions when they come, which is why meditation is such a powerful tool. Is if you can meditate, you can handle distractions. And if you can handle distractions, you're going to elevate your performance significantly. The third piece for me, it gets me ready for my exercise. So I follow up with my breath work. I immediately go into, usually I'm in a plank series right now where I'm trying to improve every single day by 10 seconds. And so, like, I go into the plank, I go into my wall sits, and then I immediately go into like a 15-minute little circuit. And so what that breath work does is that it wakes me up. That is the point. I want to alert my CNS, my central nervous system. So I want to get everything activated. I want to be ready for my day. And usually when I do it, man, I feel amazing. On an off day like I did today was an off day for me. So I didn't have that alarm set for 4:45. And so I really felt it. Like, I feel the struggle when I don't do my breath work. So it's that threefold right there.
How long do you feel like it took you to where you were able to control your mind during meditation, where you were able to derive those benefits, if you remember back to when you first started your meditation practice?
Yeah. So I'm not very good at meditation. I will say that my meditation is a little bit more prayerful than anything else. I want to get right with my Maker. I want to get right with Jesus. So if I do shift my focus to go away from the breathing into the meditation, then it's just more of a gratitude. My meditation goes to gratitude, where I immediately just start thanking Jesus for what it is that I am grateful for. And I try to go just nonstop, and I go deeper. So I go even deeper. So if I say, man, Lord, I'm thankful for this breath, but why am I thankful for the breath? And what is it about the breath that I should be thankful? Well, I'm thankful for this breath because of that I can speak life to my friends. And then I try to go a little bit deeper. So that meditation just allows me to keep going a little bit deeper. So I hope that helps right there.
That does. All right. So you mentioned that you use that to set yourself up for exercise. So as part of the Healthy Leader program, what kind of exercises are part of the program that you recommend for someone who's participating in the program? And as you think about for everybody, do you try to set them up with the same idea of the breathing and the meditation leading them into exercise, or is that something that is a personal choice for a person, just what works best for them?
A little bit of both, actually, Mike. What we want to try to do is we want that exercise to typically follow your breath work so that you can immediately go and attack your day. However, we recognize that certain people just don't perform all that well when they wake up. And so we're understanding. And so it's not going to be something that, hey, you got to do it this way. Because anytime you have those types of programs, workouts, fads, diets, whatever you want to call them, they don't typically last. Like when it has to be this way and only this way, it's not going to work. We just highly encourage it. Because, we understand when you wake up in the morning and getting the first amount of sun, your cortisol levels get released, right? Which then allows your body to understand when to release hormones throughout the body, which is super important. So by you getting the cortisol earlier in the morning, like going for a run after your breath work, that helps get that and release it then so that it's ready for the day at which you want to. If you said, hey, and I do this sometimes too, I go for a run at nighttime, but sometimes that means that my cortisol levels don't get released until later, and then it ends up being just a little bit harder to sleep. Well, we know that sleep is the biggest and the number one performance enhancing drug you could do. So we want to try to make sure that we give our members the best sleep options. So we understand that it might be at different points, but we want to try to get it as much as we can to where there's a system. Like your body needs to have a system of when it gets food, and it needs to have a schedule for when it exercises.
So it's more about helping the person to decide and determine what works best for their rhythms and the way that their body works and the way that their schedule is set up. The schedule is best set up for them as opposed to being a rigid schedule that, hey, you have to follow this. Am I reading that correctly?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to meet you where you are, and then we want to be able to hold you accountable so that you can continue to grow, get better, and elevate your performance. All
right. Talk about that accountability piece before we jump into the next.
Well, let's say that. Let's skip that to the fourth piece after the reflection piece. Let's go to the third.
Yep, let's go to third. Reading. I know how passionate you are about reading. So just explain to us why you feel reading is so important, and I want to dive into what you're reading right now too.
Yeah. Oh man, let's go. Number one, I didn't get to touch on it in terms of the fitness part. What we want to try to do is we want to get that your aerobic capacity, so your heart rate. At that 30, we'd like to get you to where you're exercising 30 minutes a day, and at that capacity range of 70%. If we can get that for X number of time, 7, 14, 21 minutes, whatever it's going to be, is your body's ability to retain information that it reads goes up significantly. Okay, so that's the whole reason why we shift over to reading. So if you could, now I understand a lot of people don't have time in their day, which is why we did set up it to be at the beginning to be 28 minutes so that you could legitimately rock this sucker out. So if you had it to where you could go immediately, then we want to read immediately following that, because I want you to retain what you're learning from this book, which is why we highly encourage that the books that you're reading improve you, whether it's from a leadership standpoint, from a mental performance standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint, and just your overall sports performance standpoint, or a coaching book. It's going to be something that kind of challenges your brain and makes you think in a different way so that you can retain even more, so that your creativity levels can go through the roof. We want to make you better, help make you better. And this is the best way to do it at this time. So we're diving in, we're jumping into reading, and we're just going to get better. And so reading is such a powerful piece, and it's going to just like, nobody ever gives you a crappy book, right? So one of the books that we're reading, let's go, The Art of Impossible, Stephen Kotler. Stephen Kotler spends so much time on this book. He gives everything he's got to this book, right? So he's never going to give you a crappy product. He's going to give you his best. So when you're reading somebody's book, it's their best work, right? And so that's what we want to get. We want to get our best in terms of retaining into whatever it is that they're giving you within that book.
I think that's a huge, huge point when you start talking about improving yourself. And you and I have touched on this both I think we talked about it a little bit in the last podcast that we did together way back when, but I know we've also talked about it in conversations outside of the podcast, just how important reading is to developing yourself and being able to improve, whether it's just as a human being, as a father, as a parent, as a coach, as a leader. I just think, to me, reading is so, so critical. And yet it's something that I think so many people, just like we talked about earlier, that in your day-to-day life, it's easy to lose sight of how important it is. And I know one of the things that I try to do is to carve out, and I usually do mine, honestly, at the end of the day, right before I go to bed. I'll spend 10 or 15 minutes and try to read a couple of pages of whatever book it is that I'm reading at the moment. And that's just, I don't know, what works the best for me. And again, just like we talked about earlier, I think you're trying to set up the system that you feel works the best for each individual person. And I think that sometimes again, it just gets pushed out of the way that, I got to skip that. I don't have time because I have tasks X, Y, and Z to do. And yet what I find is when I don't read, when I get off that habit for short periods of time before I kind of get back on the horse, I'm just not as creative, and I don't have as many things going through my head because I'm not bouncing ideas in my brain that I'm thinking about, that I'm questioning, that I'm wondering, well, how does that apply to me in my situation? Whereas reading, it doesn't take a whole lot. It takes 2, 3, 4 pages, especially if you're reading a book, like you said, that's a good book. You're going to get lots and lots of ideas from that. So what do you think about in terms of the time that somebody should spend reading?
Oh, man, that's kind of just why, if you're reading a page a minute, that'd be fantastic, right? So then you're getting 5 to 7 pages in through this reading. One thing that I want to make clear, which is the whole reason why this reading is such an important focus, is we have so many thoughts going through our brain that our brain is never actually, it's not thinking. It's having conversations, right? And so if the conversations that we're having, 85% of them are negative, then we're constantly going over back and forth with the same conversations in our heads, speaking the same crap. When if we read, we're legitimately having a conversation with this author about ideas that we can actually have. So now they become newer ideas, and we're speaking that negative stuff a whole lot less. So the more we read, or the more we dive in, the more ideas and creativity and opportunity and possibilities open up for us inside of ideas. So I do want to make sure that we touch on that, so that way, like you just said, if I'm not reading, I'm not really as creative. Well, there's 100% truth to that. So I don't think that there's a set time. We just want to do it. So our focus is going to be 7. Everything's minimum. Like, this is minimum. This isn't maximum. If you want to keep reading, keep reading. Leaders are readers, man. So we definitely don't encourage it. It just being a 28-day, we want to say, hey, look, if this is what we got, then this is what we're going to give. But if not, if you've got a little more time to read, well, hey, finish the chapter off, get some of those thoughts in. I've always got a pen and I've always got dots. I felt bad for the library because I ended up getting one of the books, and man, I just tore up that book with dots all over the place on what my notes were so that I could go back into my phone and take my notes on the phone. And so I wrote a letter to the library just apologizing, like, hey, I'll purchase this book if I need to. But I think that there's so much wisdom inside this book that actually helps us as coaches and leaders.
So is that your method for, that was going to be my next question, was how do you take and internalize what you read and make sure that it doesn't just drift away when you finish reading? So it sounds like you have a system of marking in the book and then putting it into your phone. So explain your system that you use to be able to retain information. Then I'll talk a little bit about kind of what I do.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go 2 different things. In terms of my nighttime thing, my nighttime is legitimately reflection. So when we do that, I'm not necessarily reflecting over what I'm reading, because at nighttime I read to fall asleep. And so that doesn't necessarily count for my 7 minutes, just because I know that if I do it right, the reading does put me to sleep. So I make sure that my good quality reading is earlier in the day. And then what I do in terms of the book, I put the dots in the book, or I'll put little parentheses from where that quote started or where that line started that I really liked, and then where it ended. And then I go back into my phone, and then immediately following, whatever my goal was, maybe it was 20 pages. So then I go back through the 20 pages and do the voice microphone through my phone on what I'm reading from that spot, dot to dot. And then I go to the next one, dot to dot. So like, my phone legitimately has just ridiculous amounts of memory just because of the books that I'm reading in there.
And then once you have it in your phone, how often do you go back and revisit that to make sure that something hasn't slipped by that you wanted to incorporate into your life, or you wanted to try, or you wanted to think about? That's one of the challenges that I always have, is the going back to it after I've initially brought it to my own attention through the reading process.
Beautiful question, Mike. And I think that a lot of people, everybody struggles with this, right? For me, I don't ever read something that I'm not fascinated with. I don't ever read something that I don't try to teach somebody else that day, which is super. It's awesome that I get to talk with you guys today, because then I get to practice what I'm learning. So I try not to teach what I learn or what I know. I try to teach what I'm learning. So, and then I can see of whether or not I get it, I get one of the quotes, or I can see of how much I got it, right? So then can I teach it well? No? Okay, well then I got to either go back and look, or it didn't trigger well enough, or maybe that instance when I'm talking to this kid about a certain thing of, their confidence, maybe that was the right thing to say because I just read it at the right time, or, maybe not. So I look at it as chances to really teach what it is that I learned from that book. Like, I'll tell my wife something and she's so tired of hearing leadership stuff and nutrition stuff. So I try to teach somebody, and I'll call people up and I'll ask them how they're doing, and then they'll say what's up, and then I'll immediately go into what I just learned, just so hoping I can share with them.
Yeah, I love that. I think you always hear that adage of thinking about how you learn something. And, you can show somebody, and they may learn it. You can have them do it, and that helps them more than just hearing about it. And then ultimately, I think teaching it is probably the best way to internalize your own learning, because you have to understand it on a deeper level so that you can simplify it for somebody else so that they can understand it. So I think that's a really, really good way to look at it. And I know for me, I have a similar system to you in terms of reading, but what I like to do is I'll typically read through, and I'll read an entire book without marking anything down or without writing anything down. And then after I finish the book in its entirety, then I'll usually go back. And I'm a person who, like I said, I'll try to read 15 minutes a night, but there's often times when you said I cracked up a little bit inside when you said, you know, you can keep going if you want, because I'm a person who tends to keep going if I have a book that I like. So I might get through a book that I really like. You know, I might bang that thing out in a couple of days if need be. And then what I'll do is I'll go back and then I'll take notes. And I'll kind of go through chapter by chapter and try to think about what were the highlights, what were the things that I was looking for in this chapter, what were the quotes and things that I thought could apply to me in my life, and then I'll write those down in a journal. And then what I try to do is go back once a month and look at least at the previous month's notes to see if there's anything in there that I have overlooked that I wanted to try or that I wanted to incorporate into what I was doing. And again, it's not a fail-safe system. I don't claim to be any kind of magician with doing it, but I do try to stick with it regularly. And I find that, again, for me, it helps me to internalize those things that I've read. And it's been a good system. And I think anybody who's a reader, I think has some kind of a system like the one you described or what I described that works for them. And I think the biggest thing is just building that reading habit. And if you're getting people to do that through Healthy Leader, especially people who maybe aren't used to reading on a regular basis, I can only imagine the value that it's unlocking for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then when we end up going to stage 4, when we'll get there. But yeah, I mean, it has tremendous power, and it's something that I didn't do till after high school. You know, it wasn't until after college I was, or during college when I started reading books, whatever I was doing personal training, and whoever I was training, I'd be like, hey, what books are you guys reading? Because I wanted to be successful like they were. And they said, oh, well, I'm reading this. Okay, well, I went and got it. And then I'd start reading that. And, so it was something that like I've started since then, but there was still no real system. But you do have to gain that, that almost unconscious piece of getting the ability to begin reading.
Yeah, I agree. I think once you get in the habit of it and you see how it transforms your thinking, I'm pretty confident that once people start the habit that they will for sure continue it. All right, let's move on to piece 4, which is kind of what we just touched on a little bit, is the reflection on what you've been doing and really thinking about how it worked for you. So talk a little bit about that reflection piece.
Yes. Like, Mike, this is my favorite part. And it's crazy that this is my favorite part because this was probably and still is a very uncomfortable part for me. All right. So that whole reflection piece of, journaling, dudes don't journal. That's only for the junior high girl. Nope. Not anymore. Sure as heck ain't for me anymore. Like I'm journaling because I know what that is. That's going to open my world up to not just my thoughts and not just to my creativity, but it's going to open my world up to my awareness. It's going to open me up to being able to reflect on how that day went. Did I win my day? So not just did I accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish, but how did I speak to my kids? Did I give life to people? So I'm constantly trying to reflect that at the end of the day so I know that I can provide more life. What life-giving things can I do? So I use that reflection time at nighttime. That's my end of the thing go. Like that's what I'm doing for the end of the day. So like we talked about, if I'm reading something to go to bed. If we're talking about after reading, and this is why it's so crucial for our healthy leaders, immediately following that reading, let's try to get whatever we can. Like you can write as much as you want in the reflection. It doesn't matter. Like this is your world. This is your reflection. This is your journal. These are your notes, right? If you can dive in as much as you can and write, then that's going to kind of help you practice retaining more of what you just learned and what you just read. And then it's going to help create more ideas within that. And then, the whole goal is just to go, okay, how can I serve? How can I take what I just learned and serve somebody else? I want my life to be that gift. Like if somebody ever says anything about Jason Fry, I want them to be that, hey, he cared enough to serve me. And that's all it is. And so I think that reflection piece is so crucial. The second part of this reflection is going to be that you're going to give one of your notes, like just one quote. It can be a legit line. You can paraphrase. You can steal the words straight from the book. And you're going to send this into the community. So everybody, and we've partnered with Lucio, so it's going to be a phenomenal experience for our members. They're going to be able to just go in straight to the app, click on it, write their session in that they did, and then write their reflection. And it's even got stuff on energy and create, how much energy did you have, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to be able to send your reflection, that one sentence, and it gets known so that then the whole community knows that you sent it out. So now the goal is to get all 36 of us members that are in this group to share that one piece that they learned, that one piece. So now you're talking about 36 people with 36 different books, with 36 different reflections. You're leveling up 36 times every day. Like if that doesn't energize you to give you some life, I don't know what will. And then you're going to be able to dive in even more and go, you know what, Mike's dropping some real knowledge on these past couple days. I really need to dive into this book. And then you go on to thriftbooks.com. I didn't mean to plug them, but I did. And then you download the book, right? So then you go get the book for $5 and you've got that copy, and now you can dive in. I really like what Mike's reading. And then I continue to listen to his stuff because I really like it. So we have a chance to really learn from one another. And you talked about the accountability piece earlier. This is where it is. Like this reflection. So, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable to make sure that you're giving this reflection, because when you give it, I elevate. When I give my reflection, Mike, you're going to elevate. And that's what is so exciting about this piece of the Healthy Leader, is that I am helping serve you by me giving this piece from what I read.
What I like about that is the idea that, again, what may be important or what may stand out to me, not only am I reading something different, so you're getting, you're drawing it from different material, but also just, I think each person approaches what they're reading, how they're reading, what they're looking for in their reading in a different way. And as a result, I'm sure that you're finding that you're getting a lot of divergent ideas and thoughts and people who approach that reflection in a completely different way from the way you might reflect upon it. Did you see that with the people that were part of the program?
Yes. And what's crazy is the best way that I can kind of sum it up is you and I both witnessed a car accident. The same thing happened no matter what. So-and-so ran the red light. This person turned left. Bam, they hit. But yet your story to the officer is going to be a completely different story than what I give. And I think that that's what's so powerful, is now I get to see something else that occurred or written about or happened that you give your perspective, and it might change mine. And that's what's so good about this reflection, is our ability as leaders to be able to change our minds. And that's what's going to change the world. Because otherwise, if you stay stuck in your thinking and I stay stuck in mine, we're not going to get anywhere across this country.
The exchange of ideas and the exchange of information and the ability to see other perspectives. I mean, especially as you just said, in today's society, it seems like we're more dug in and entrenched into our own position and our own thoughts than ever before. And I think that someone who has a growth mindset is going to benefit from this, because it just opens you up to so many other different perspectives and thoughts and ideas. And as you said, the books that I pick might be completely different from the books that you pick, and they may have a different focus. And I may be looking at one area of leadership and you may be looking at another, and I may be coming at it from the perspective of a coach, and somebody else could be coming at it from the perspective of a wealth manager. And those two people, although they have completely different occupations, there's so many things that they have in common that the differences and the common ground sort of come together and end up, I'm sure, creating a community that is vibrant and one that everybody benefits from, because of those different perspectives.
Absolutely, man. And that's what's so exciting about it.
Do you see, when you've now talked to the groups that have gone through the entire program, what are some things that people have shared with you in terms of the transformation in their life as a leader, as a father, as a coach, in their business, in their lives, kind of what you talked about off the top? What kind of impact have people shared with you that it's had on their life?
Man, I had one guy goes, Jason, guess what I did? I said, well, what? And he goes, I lifted weights today. I said, well, okay. And, is this like a normal thing? Like what? And he goes, no, I haven't lifted weights in 10 years. And he started lifting weights. I jog, I do a little bit of walking, I do some running, I walk the trails, but I started lifting. And I said, well, that's phenomenal. Like, how do you feel? And he goes, I feel great. I feel great. And so, there's a lot of guys that are doing different things. Some had no idea the power of what that breath work was going to do. Others just hadn't dived yet into the reading, into reading specific things that are going to help make them better, And so a lot of these guys, and guys and girls, right? I just mean guys in general. A lot of these people are just experiencing one piece that they weren't aware of, And so it was one of those things that it was just eye-opening for them. And that's what we want to do. We want to create like this same thing that we as coaches want our kids to do. Like we do it as well as we can at camps, as well as we can in practice, to create experience for our kids so their decision-making becomes faster, right? Well, we're doing that for the healthy leader. We're doing that for our leaders so that they too can have those same experiences and now make better decisions at a faster rate, which only increases their performance.
Yeah, if you could just help people to make better decisions day in and day out, I know that's one of the things that I always am fascinated whenever I read a book is about how we make decisions, whether that's intuition or careful consideration, and just the psychology behind decision making to me is always fascinating. And I always try to self-analyze and think about, well, how do I make decisions? What is it that am I more intuitive, or am I more of a planner and a thinker when it comes to making decisions? And I just think it's fascinating when you start talking about being able to have an impact, because obviously when we think of decision making, oftentimes we think of the big, huge decisions like, am I going to change jobs, or what am I going to do with this huge thing that's going on in my life? But you just think about all the little decisions that we have to make, that if you could become better at those on a day in, day out basis, how improved your life would be if you could improve your decision making.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So before we wrap up with Healthy Leader, I want you to share how people can find out more about the program, where they can go to get signed up, and when they do sign up, what the process looks like for them to jump in and when the next session is going to get started.
Yeah. All right. So we are kicking it off June 1st. Okay. That's going to be everybody who does start and signs up before June 1st. That's going to be their start off date. Because right now we are finishing up with those touches on the app that they're going to be able to download. So basically, you're just going to go to CoachJFry.com, and then you'll just find the 90-day Healthy Leader. You'll click on that tab. You'll scroll down. You'll see my amazing video. It's not amazing, by the way, but it's a video giving you a little bit of taste of what we just went through. And then you're going to be able to, I want this now, and you just click that button. All right. And then you go into the purchase and you pay it's $100 fee for 90 days. All right. So you sign up, and then bam, I shoot you the email saying, get your butt ready, put that seatbelt on, because we're going for a ride. And so, we want them to know that up to this point, we're building this community so that everybody can get ready to rock and roll. And then come June 1st, we are rocking and rolling. We'll have a video the day before so that they can help prepare. And then follow our daily guidelines. What is really, really exciting is we have 10 healthy leader, thought leaders, so to speak, signed up and ready to rock and serve our members. So not only are they leaders in communities, not only are they some of the best in the country, but we've got doctors, we've got MDs, we've got chiropractors, we got the best sports performance coaches in the country. that are going to be there to help provide little methods, solutions, tools, and techniques to help serve our members so that they can get the most out of this experience.
All right, coaches, if you aren't sold yet, I would highly encourage you to go to CoachJFry.com, get signed up for a Healthy Leader, and transform yourself, transform your life, and make yourself a better person. And I think if you listen to it all tonight and you hear Jason's enthusiasm, I could speak to conversations that I've had outside of the podcast with Jason and the enthusiasm that he brings to the podcast and that I'm sure he brings to Healthy Leader is 100% genuine, because whether you're texting with him or talking with him on the phone, Jason, I'll tell you this, and I think I've said it to you before, honestly, you're always one of the most positive people that I talk to, and somebody who, no matter what the situation is, you always bring a level of enthusiasm that I think is unmatched. So coaches, if you get a chance to work with Jason, highly recommend it. Hey coaches, parents, and group leaders, I want to introduce you to our newest sponsor, SnapRaise. SnapRaise is the nation's largest digital donation platform built to help teams, youth groups, and clubs raise money quickly and efficiently without selling products. SnapRaise builds your group a customizable campaign website, and students use their mobile devices to connect and engage with their biggest fans. My son's high school team used SnapRaise this season, and our team raised all the money they needed to fund their season, and then some. Getting SnapRaise started is quick and free. Just visit snapraise.com and you'll get connected to a local SnapRaise expert in no time. He also has another way that you can get involved, that if you want to dive even deeper into the things that Jason does, he also has a mountain leadership experience. So I'm going to just cede the floor to you and let you go into a spiel about what mountain leadership is all about and why people should consider, if they're really looking for a transformative experience, why they should consider the mountain leadership.
Yeah. Oh, Mike, thank you for the kind words. That means a lot. That means more to me than you'll know. Thank you. And it's something I want to always be. So if I ever go off path, I want you to just knock me in the head.
All right, I'll let you know, man. If your enthusiasm level wanes, I'll let you know.
Yes. All right. Well, let's talk about mountain leadership experience. Okay. So what our goal is for this summer is we are going to do 7 summits in 7 days. We are in Buena Vista, Colorado, the home of the Collegiate Peaks and the St. Watch Mountain Range. I mean, we are talking Mount Yale, Mount Lincoln, Mount Princeton, Elbert's up there. What we are going to do is we are going to go 7 14ers in 7 days. Now, don't get all antsy in your pants and think like, oh, man, I got to wake up at 3:30 every single day of this. We are going to we are going to get to Summit 2 in a day from time to time, so that way you're not just murdering yourself and killing it, but we are looking to challenge our members as much as possible. So it's not just the best experience possible, the best vacation with some outstanding coaches and leaders, but we are going to challenge you from time to time and try to bring out some really great conversation and challenging experiences for everybody. It is in Buena Vista. We are going from roughly July 12th. That's going to be the timeline, July 12th through the 20th, right around there, so that you can lock up and get ready. We've got a great house to stay at. I mean, it's going to be one unbelievable experience. I do want to say it's going to be a hefty price tag, but the profits all go to Brady's Bridge. My twin brother and sister-in-law have a son with special needs, and Brady's Bridge actually funds families who have kids born with special needs. So it is one beautiful and amazing experience that we get to have as coaches and experience on the mountain, but yet know that all that money is really going towards Brady's Bridge. So it's not a mountain climb. I've done the climbs where we're legitimately on hands and feet and just going up the ropes. I don't want to tie those knots anymore, and I certainly don't want to I don't want those near-death experiences ever again. So all these mountains are hikeable. So for those of you that are maybe a little weary, I want you to know that it's entirely, I can't guarantee safety, but it is extremely safe. Like we've never lost anybody on our experiences so far. And, it's one of those things like I'm a guy I'm not a fan of heights, but I climb mountains because of what the challenge brings to me. Like, I'm scared crapless just like everybody else. But it is something that I constantly look at this as something we coach our kids, and it's a 1 foot forward. It's right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot as we get up that mountain. And so if you're going to be scared, I'm going to be scared with you. We're going to go up this mountain together. And so we're going to celebrate at the top, and we're going to celebrate 7 summits in 7 days.
How important is the physical challenge leading into some of the things that you do in terms of leadership and the mental part of it? How do those two in your mind play off of one another, the physical challenge combined with the mental challenge?
That always, like, to be honest, I think physicality brings out a lot of the mental toughness. We talked off campus or off camera about, just like holding on a little bit more. And to be honest, like, that's mental toughness. It's just the ability to persevere, which just means I'm holding on, but then I'm getting punched in the face, I'm getting back up, but I'm also changing and adapting as I get punched, as I get back up. And I think that physicality, like getting in workouts, constantly does that and opens you up to new change and new adaptability and new mindsets. Like, you're just creating new experiences. And so that only helps serve you as stuff gets harder.
Now, I know this isn't a mountain climbing podcast, but I'm curious. Have you watched the movie Free Solo?
Yeah, I sure have. And let me tell you, that dude is nuts. I climbed the Tetons, and I'm sitting there on a face with rope, and I'm just like, I want to get off this thing. I can't imagine somebody climbing that sucker, free solo. And it's beautiful. Like, as a coach, I think every coach should watch that movie, and it's just his detail. Like, that dude's detail was phenomenal about how he had on his planner. At this step, at this exact mark, my thumb is imprinted into the mountain. It's turned 36 degrees. And, like, the level of detail was unbelievable in that movie.
Yeah, I was just blown away. And I've been to Yosemite a couple times in my life. And you go and you look at El Capitan that he climbed. And the idea of even climbing 10 feet up that thing, when you're looking at it, it's basically just a flat surface. It's like, I don't even know where you find the handholds and the footholds that he's finding and cataloging and doing all those things. And you look at it and you see him up there, and the ability to, and I know that there was some talk in there, they didn't dive into it as deeply maybe as I thought they might, just the fact that he doesn't sense fear the same way that you or I would sense fear, that part of his brain is, missing, damaged, not fully developed, however you want to say it. I just don't know that you could do that without having that particular quirk in your mind, because the idea of doing what he did and doing it without ropes and, as you said, planning it. And there were a couple moments there, like when he had to do the giant karate kick to get from the one spot to the other, as he's going up. And then there was the other time where he had to kind of go around the corner that was jutted out. And he was, basically it looked like the letter X as he's wrapped around this corner of the rock. I mean, that thing it just blew me away how single-mindedly focused he was, how, as you said, the attention to detail, and then just seeing him hanging there and the shots when you're getting him from above and, you're just looking down into the valley and seeing, it was just, to me, I don't know that there's ever been a more physically and mentally challenging feat that a single human being has voluntarily accomplished. Now, maybe there are things that have gone on in wartime and times when people were forced into situations where they had to react heroically. But as far as someone voluntarily putting themselves into a life and death situation, and the physical tasks that were required and the mental tasks that were required, I don't know if there's ever been anything more impressive than that. I just was blown away after watching that thing.
Hell yeah. What is so cool, and it goes back to the special operations. I get a chance to learn from those guys, and it's all training, right? So for him, like, we saw in that video is how many times did he go up and walk that mountain face with the rope. So he's legitimately going. And I think planning and preparation eliminates a lot of fear. But we've got to be real that if you don't have fear, then it's not a challenge. Like, it'll never exist. Like, anybody who says, I'm fearless, they are a liar. You cannot eliminate fear. You cannot eliminate doubt. But what you can do is run through it. You can have the steps to go after it, even though doubt and fear are present. Like, you saw it in the movie. He still had fear. Like, his ankle's jacked up. He's still like, I don't know, but I have to do it now. So, like, he still got it. It's there. It's just the dude's like, I'm prepared as well as possible to go do this. And I think that, if we do plan and prepare, which our Sundays inside of the Healthy Leader, our Sundays are planning and prep days. So those are days at which we can legitimately plan out this week so that we can better handle those situations, maybe with a little less anxiety or a little less fear.
Yeah, absolutely. That idea of preparing and figuring out what you're going to do and the planning process, I think is so important. You always hear about it. You mentioned journaling earlier, and you think about sort of planning out your day the night before and thinking about what it is that you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And I know that I try to make that a habit. I'm by no means perfect at it, and I don't do it every day. But on days when I do it, I find that I'm able to focus up more on what's important instead of like what's right in front of me. And I think that's critical when you start talking about trying to accomplish something big in your life. And obviously there's nothing bigger than climbing that mountain like he did and doing it without ropes and free climbing. It is incredible. If you're a coach and you have not seen that National Geographic movie, Free Solo, please go out and do that. Hey, hoopheads, we all hate ankle sprains, and they happen way too often. Ankle injuries are the #1 sports-related injury. Arise is trying to change that. With the iFast, your athletes get preventative protection and full mobility. Athletes no longer need to wear bulky braces that limit performance and give mediocre protection. Anyone playing sports should be using these products. Keep your athletes in the game. Don't wait for them to get hurt to take action. Visit www.arise.com/team pricing to learn more. That's ARYSE.com. Let's jump over to the basketball side as we head towards the end of the show. Give me some things that you have going basketball wise. Just talk a little bit about what's happening for you on the hoops front.
Oh man, I am constantly learning. My good mentor, colleague, co-boss, Drew Hanlen just released some stuff, and he's even got some more stuff coming out, with his basketball school. So if I'm not learning from him, I'm learning from my other coaches that I'm constantly reaching out to. Like our focus, #1 is just almost getting back, like this spring was a getting back to not necessarily the basics, but getting back to sharpening the skills that you do have within shooting. So coming back and cleaning that shot up completely. Not like a shot fix, but getting back to the one thing that I can focus on right now as a shooter for me, that we spend most of our time, every time we shot the ball with that focus in mind. And so we saw a ton of our players get a lot better. And then now we're shifting that focus over to the decision-making piece, the competitive piece, as well as making sure that we don't lose sight of the most important thing, which is putting that dang ball in the hole. So we're spending a ton of time on those pieces as well. Very similar to the Healthy Leader, we've got it blocked up to where we're focused on it. Legitimately, the first 21 minutes of any workout, we're getting what we need as an individual worked on every single workout. So it's like, dude, are we doing this again? You dang right we are. We're getting better in these 3 areas, in these 3 7-minute blocks. And then we're going into the decision-making or the competitive piece coming up.
Yeah, those repetitions obviously are really critical and important. What's happening with shooting? What's something that you're working with? You don't have to give names or whatever, but just what's what's something that you're seeing from a shooting perspective that maybe a player or coach that's out there listening that they might be able to benefit from and work on themselves or with one of their players?
Yeah. Okay. So I would probably say I did this, or I talked a little bit about this with Justin, and probably it's like, what are my catches looking like? So I have to go back and look and evaluate my catches within my offense that I did as a player. And I got to start looking at how can I catch and shoot those while remaining on balance. And I would suggest starting off with, okay, how can I get those catches? And just maybe that might be my first 7 minutes of working on just the different catches with good feet, making sure I caught them at the speed I need. So not game speed's overrated, but what is the speed I need to catch that within, my help parameters, within my defender closing out? What's that look like? What's that feel like? And then we would go into, okay, so I got those catches down. Well, now can I do that with wide open, like just rhythm catches? Can I get that? And then can I get that at the speed I need? Then we work on, okay, can I get that with a defender being somewhat close by? So now we just slowly progress into going from that into a legit game situation where it's the speed I need with a defender contesting my shot, trying to get a piece of the ball. So, and that's really, really difficult. So if we don't work on those first parts leading up to that, we're going to rush that last part, and then it's going to be a garbage situation. And then I'm going to practice rushed habits instead of quick habits. I'm going to practice rush and hurried habits instead of my feet were there before I was ready to rock. I caught and shot on balance, and I banged it in even with that defender right there.
How do you have the conversation with a player or with the coach of a player talking about slowing that process down at the beginning and making sure that you have the technical skills in place before you put a defender on the floor, before you involve decision making? Because a lot of times we all know that people want to run from 0 to 100 in the first 5 seconds. Instead of spending a lot of time at 5 miles an hour, they want to get right to 100. So how do you have that conversation with a player and explain to them how important it is to build the fundamental skill that underlies being able to do it at game speed while making a game read in a situation that it's dynamic, not static?
Yeah, man. It's a film thing, so I think one of the things that Drew does really, really well when he does film with his guys is he'll have his guy look at him do something poorly, but then he has his guy look at the guy he's competing with for that all-star ballot, him doing it right. So now he's, whoa, that dude did it right and I didn't do it right. And then he gets back to showing him, hey, well, you did do it right here. So how can we implement that into a more consistent thing? So I think that a lot of times that film always tells the truth. If you were a skills coach and you wanted to break it all the way down to the, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing, then you can just film the kids. Well, they play at the very first 10 minutes of your workouts and you film them making those decisions and you go, okay, look at this decision. You repeated 2 times. You made the wrong decision both times on just like, let's say, moving without the ball. You made the wrong decision here. What do you think you could have done? Okay, well, that's what we've got to rep today. So it's almost like knowing ahead of time what you do need to work on with the kid and then being able to show him in real time, hey, this is what it is. This is what I wanted to show you. And then you can go, okay, well, now they point it out. They see it. And then now they're in line with wanting to do that, knowing that it's going to make them that player that's better.
Film is so powerful, and I think that what you just described of showing and demonstrating a player that, hey, you can do it right, here's you doing it right, and then here's where you didn't do it. We all know that long term, what really makes someone a great player is the ability to perform consistently. It's not the guy who one night can get 30 and then the next night they're going to get you 4. The guy who can get you 20 every single night is much more valuable in the long run than the guy who you have no idea as a coach that when you put them on the floor, what you're going to get. And I think film does a tremendous job of demonstrating things that it's really difficult to get across just in a conversation. I think one of the things that when you forget about technical skills, because we obviously know that film can break that down, but I think one of the most valuable ways to use film is just to show a kid who thinks they're running the floor hard or thinks they're, quote, playing hard. And then you just show them on film, like, look, here's you jogging down the floor, or here's you being stationary on the weak side and not coming over to help your teammate. And when you show it to them, and then there's no argument. You either see it and it's there or it's not. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that film can really show beyond the technical skills as well.
And the other piece too within that you've got to have is that trust piece. And that's what's great about us as skills coaches and what sucks is about us as head coaches is that skills coach has that relationship piece of legitimately that sweat equity. And so that's why the players typically bond more to the skills coach, because it is that, more intimate setting and they sweat with you a little bit. And so that trust is there. So when coach points out, hey, you're not running hard, and says it, like, the wall is still built up. Right? So it's still there, so that even though I'm telling the truth, you can't receive that because of the trust not being there, right? So it's really important that the kid knows how that coach feels. Hey, I'm doing this so that you become as great of a player as possible, and the kids just got to believe it. So, and that's one great thing that we have. So the more film that we can show that only works if we've got that relational piece.
If you're working with a high school player, let's say, how much of their high school game film are you grabbing to take a look at with them versus filming and looking at them in a workout that they're doing with you? How do you balance those two?
Yeah, sometimes you don't get film from high school. Sometimes you do. Like parents usually have film. Let's be real. They've got all the film in the world for their baby, and they have the film just on their baby, not even watching the ball. So you have that film to go with, but then like people's tendencies and habits don't change outside of just high school ball. So when AAU comes, or when just watching them play, so you can figure out real quick, are they off the ball dominant? Are they on the ball dominant? You can figure out kind of what their roles were when you first began watching them play. And then you can kind of piece that sucker together. I do think it's important, like for me, a lot of times I go and I get film from my players' coaches. The ones that I continue to work with, not necessarily like the new kids that you just reach out to the coach. Hey, coach, what's your offense? What are you running? What are the things that matter most to your program, and what are the things that would matter most to this kid? Then you talk to the kid about that, and so you get a great idea between the two. Is there congruency? Is there not? Which one's off, right? So then you get a really great idea in terms of how do I build that the right way, and then you can kind of like mix and match and try to piece what is most important. Because in the end, if you do what that coach did, like asked you to do, and you get that kid really good, and then he's a starter on varsity and he gets minutes, like that coach is going to push kids to you. And so, the biggest thing is that referral piece. So if you can win coach over while still winning the kid over, I think that obviously that's the best case scenario. And then just diving in from there.
How open have you found high school coaches to working with you as the trainer for one of their players? Is that something that, for the most part, coaches are open to? Do you find that there's resistance initially? Do you find that you have to sit down or have a phone call with them and really kind of explain what your role is and how you envision your role with the player? What's that relationship like between you and a high school coach?
It's exactly the same as your relationship with your wife and with the girl you're trying to date, and it's all time, right? So your first relationship, like that first meeting with the coach, the first time you get this kid, the first time you meet with this coach, it's going to be what you just said. Hey, coach, I'm this. It's going to be real short. What do you need? And and because the coach doesn't know you, doesn't trust you, right? And then so I think that a good piece for coaches to have is to like, hey, look, we're 3 weeks in, coach. This is where we're at. We've been working really, really hard on this, and let me show you the progress. And so you might just send them a video, a 20-second clip of this kid shooting where maybe you altered his shot to where it's now just nice and smooth, whatever it is. And maybe he's shooting a lot more on balance, and you just send that to him and say, Coach, we're really working on it. And so all that does is demonstrate hey, I'm in it for you, Coach. I'm in it for your program. And then those conversations with the coaches improve. So it's never like, she's not going to be taking you home to dad and mom on the first date, right? So it's one of those things that you just got to, if you're going to meet mom and dad, it's got to be earned. And so the same thing with coach, you got to earn that by making that one kid that much better.
Absolutely. It makes a ton of sense. I think our crack research staff is ready with the answer to the question that we had off the top of the podcast. Jason, what do you got for me, man?
Hey, that's what we call a tease in the biz. We made them stay to listen all the way through.
That's right, just to find out the answer.
Yeah. No. Anyways, so I think if I did my math correct, and I am a math teacher, so Jason, I hope I did this correctly. I went through, and I believe that you are number 22 to be a repeat.
So I was pretty close.
Mike was pretty close. I was a little off. And that's not counting round table. I did not count the round table.
Yeah, that's right.
Good job, Jay. Jay, don't count those anyways. Right. Get them out of there.
So 22, Jason. I believe if I'm correct. So.
All right. Well, that's still a pretty exclusive club.
Yeah. I'm a top 25 guy. I'll take it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. You're in the newspaper in the top 25. That's good. You're gonna qualify for the NCAA tournament. It's all good.
Yeah. You just gotta start coming on a little bit more. Catch up to Greg White, who's number 1.
Hey, that's my man. I'd rather hear Greg than me talk. So I think most people would.
All right, Jay. Before we wrap up, I want to give you one more chance. Share how people can connect with you on social media. Give your website again. Tell them how they can get signed up for a Healthy Leader, for the Mountain Leadership Experience if they really want to dive deep. And then I'll jump back in and wrap things up.
Yeah. Well, first off and last off, thank you. It is such a pleasure to be on Hoop Heads. It is a fantastic thing. Like our coaching community gets better, and it's because of you guys. So we got to just stay focused and diligent on the task ahead, and you guys are definitely doing that. To find more about me, what we're doing, what we're rocking out with Healthy Leader, it's just CoachJFry.com, Coach, CoachJFry.com. You can click on the links for the 90-day Healthy Leader. If you want to know more about the Healthy Leader, just a little bit more outside of the video we provide, you can just click on Healthy Leader. And then in terms of the Mountain Leadership, we have the MLE tab up, so you can just click right there. If you want to reach out from any social media, guys, I try to get back as quickly as possible because your time's valuable. And a lot of times I would hit people up and I would have a question that I wanted answered, and then I just never got it back. So if you do, I'll try to hit you back ASAP, and that's all Coach J Fry. So it doesn't matter. If you're on LinkedIn, Coach J Fry. If you're on Twitter, it's Coach J Fry. If you're on Instagram, it's Coach J Fry. I like to post my kids a little bit more on the Instagram piece. So if you don't want to see my 5-year-old, you don't have to follow. But if a lot of my Twitter is just, it's stuff that I'm either learning, or it's legitimately stuff that I tweet out so that I can go back and look at to see if that was something that I really wanted to know. And so I can always go back to. So what you guys read out on Twitter is what I'm learning. So I hope it helps. And if it doesn't, that's okay. It was for my learning anyways.
It's great stuff, and we appreciate you sharing that. So like I said earlier in the pod, make sure you check out CoachJFry.com. Make sure you check out all the things that he has to offer. I think if you've sat through and listened to the podcast, like I said, Jason's enthusiasm and what he's built with Healthy Leader and the experience that you could have with the Mountain Leadership, I just think that there's a lot of great stuff that can help to improve your life as a human being, as a coach. And it's all good stuff that's going to help you and benefit you and help you develop into the kind of person and coach and businessman or businesswoman that you want to be. So Jason, again, cannot thank you enough for jumping on and spending an hour and 15 minutes with us or so tonight. And as we've said, it is your second time, number 22, if our research is accurate, as a two-time guest. So we are honored to have you back. You might right now, I think there might be a record that you may hold is the longest time in between appearances, because you were probably among, I would say, probably our first.
I think I cracked top 10 on. Yeah, I was top 10 on that one. I think I might have been number 6. I don't know.
All right. So I don't think there's anybody that's gone longer between appearances. So we are excited to have you back. We are glad that it took too long, but we are glad that we were able to get you back on and talk about all the great things that you've been able to do. And we truly appreciate your time, and we appreciate your support and all the things that you've done for us to support us in the coaching community. Cannot thank you enough for all that. And to everyone out there, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Hoop Heads podcast, presented by Head Start Basketball.